17, promote the group idea as a force for positive change. Yeah.
May I say there,
Yeah.
just to tell about nuns, and we were privileged to work with a wonderful Indian nun, a presentation sister,
Yeah.
but who has gone ahead and is promoting cosmology and teaching it around the world, and is at the forefront of breaking down all the barriers and linking people, East and West, Celtic with Hinduism. And she's a great example of, it was she impressed upon me the need for groups, the power within a group.
Okay. So there you go. Even if you're saying that this woman really impressed you.
Presentation sister. And Indian.
But from a Hindu perspective.
Well,
I see.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So you can even come from a traditional stream,
Yes.
and even hold a sense of your participation in that stream, but are not confined by some of the limiting forces that are also found in that stream. Right. That's beautiful to see. Yeah, I was just saying, I was at lunchtime, I was having a conversation about the fact that I often do workshops in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at a Catholic retreat center, but these nuns there are quite remarkable because they do a lot of alternative healing stuff.
Yes.
You know, and they meditate, they do Reiki, they read metaphysical books, and it's just that there is a cutting edge element to some of these mainstreams. It's wonderful to see. Yeah. Okay. Number 18 is really important. Always remain discriminative, decentralized, dispassionate, and detached. That's sometimes called the 4 Ds in this philosophy, the 4 Ds. Discriminative, meaning have that mind develop so well that you actually can discern clearly one thing from another, discern the difference between what is true and what only seems to be true. It's not discriminative as in the negative to discriminate against, you know. It's a good mind is a discriminative mind because it's not a muddled mind, and it's one of the most important things. And also discriminative in your own nature. Can you discriminate between a personality impulse and a soul impulse? Well, that's one way, but remember in my book I talk about the imposter of the soul. Can you discriminate between a genuine soul impulse and one coming from the imposter? Because they look a lot alike. They look a lot alike. Because remember, the imposter is the part of the personality that falsely believes it is the soul. And so there's that whole process of how do you discriminate between the actor and the real thing. Discrimination. The next one is the decentralization. So the Tibetan talks about how it's so important to sort of take your eyes off yourself. Take your eyes off yourself. But there's an irony in this, you know. Many times he'll speak of take your eyes off yourself and say it in one way or another. And then in the next paragraph he'll say, know where you stand on the path. Take your eyes off yourself, know where you stand on the path. So it seems like, well, how do you do that? But there is a way to reconcile that. Does anybody know what it is? How do you reconcile that?
Ask someone else.
Ask somebody else. That's good, I like that. Ask somebody else. No, attitudinally there's a way to reconcile it. It means, yes, take your eyes off yourself, but there's truth to that. But it also means, when it says know where you stand on the path, it means know your system so well that you know where you stand, but never forget that you're just a cell within a larger system. So it's a combination of centralized focus of who am I, where am I, and how am I, while at the same time decentralizing yourself to know that you're part of a larger living whole. So it's sort of the two together kind of neutralize each other. That's how it is often viewed. Does that make sense?
A simple question I use is, am I doing this to boost myself?
Am I doing this to boost
I
myself?
ask myself, or am I doing it for the purpose that I see?
Right, right, yeah. Dispassionate. You know, a lot of times people talk passion, that's the way to move forward. But often passion is representing a strong emotional surge. And so it's the emotional body that is capturing the life and saying, this is my passion. Now, dispassion means detachment from your emotional body, but not repression of the emotion. It's not about saying, don't have passion. It's about saying, don't become the passion. That's what it means. And that's not easy, because when you get really excited about something and really emotionally charged about something, at that moment you become the emotion often. You know what I mean? You know, and that's the test of the second initiation, you know. At the second initiation is where you have to demonstrate that you can have emotion and not be had by emotion. That you can use emotion and not be used by emotion. Someday we'll do that whole thing. We'll look at the initiations, but second initiation's tough, because to be able to be detached from your feeling, it's one thing to be detached from emotions that are negative, but it's another when you're detached from your prized emotions, like happiness and exhilarated enthusiasm. To be detached from that, that's another matter, because the personality loves attachment to it, you know? So it's, yeah, okay. And then there it is, detached. And it's not just detached from your instruments there, but detached from needing to see the fruits of your labor. That's also part of it, okay? Where are we, 19? See the hand of God in all happenings. Because remember, there's no place where God is not. There's a lot of places where we don't perceive, but there's no place where God is not. Why is that? Because everything is divinity in manifestation. So how could it be otherwise, you know? Number 20, interpret events using proportional and relativistic thinking. You get the idea there. In other words, Master Morya, which is, if you know that Master Morya is the head of the first ray ashram and has a whole stream of, there's a whole first ray stream of this philosophy. This is the second ray stream that I'm presenting to you, but Master Morya calls it in a different way. He says, develop the skill of co-measurement. But what he means by that is, develop the capacity to really understand what is large and what is small. We have a tendency to think in more absolute terms, all or part, but recognize that everything is incrementally, know the difference between allness and partness. I often talk about the idea that the person that awakens to the path and has these deep meditation experiences, they suddenly think they've reached universal consciousness. Universal consciousness, not even the solar logos can make such a claim. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because often on the path there isn't co-measurement, there isn't proper relativistic thinking. Later on it develops. We realize that what we thought was universal enlightened realization was just moreness, not allness. So there's a tempering that takes place. The subject of initiation is a subject that actually helps us do that. Because initiation is really a process of seeing. Oh, there's an incremental process here. It's not I'm enlightened or I'm not. It's not that I'm saved or I'm not. I'm working my way step by step relative to the last step on my way to becoming, quote, enlightened, if you want to use that term. Yeah. So when we get impatient, when we see societal change moving, sometimes we want it to move much faster than it does. Well, maybe that's how it is. You know, that's how it goes. So, yeah. All right. What do we got? Another one here. Serve through harmlessness in speech and activity. You know, this whole idea of harmlessness is so interesting because the a lot of times people think that what the Tibetan is saying is, always be pleasant, never ruffle feathers. It's not what it means at all. In fact, if you don't move into the world in your service work, if you never ruffle feathers in any context, there's probably something wrong. It doesn't mean harmlessness as in not ruffle feathers, because ask yourself, what are the feathers that are being ruffled? And the feathers that are being ruffled are personality feathers. You probably are going to ruffle personality feathers. You know what I mean? And sometimes you have to ruffle personality feathers, and sometimes your personality feathers have to be ruffled as well. But it's always with the vision of a higher unity, always, always. There's one of the things that's so interesting in the laws of the soul. I mentioned to you earlier today, I said the third law of the soul was the law of service. And I sort of set the stage for our day by just telling you that, hey, there's a law of the causal body that's all about make a service contribution. But I didn't tell you what the fourth law of the soul is. The fourth law of the soul is the law that usually surprises people. It's called the law of repulse. The law of repulse. Now, usually that word, repulse and soul, generally don't go together. You don't think of it, or spirituality, but it actually is really important. And the Tibetan says that the law of repulse is a law of consciousness that increases as you go down the path, and its major thrust is at the third initiation. Third initiation. So what does it mean? It means to repulse on behalf of a higher unity. It's pushing away that which is inconsistent with the larger unity you know must come to be. It's not repulse for its own sake. That's what causes so much of the problems in the world. This is why the law of repulse is actually a sub-law of another great law in esotericism, the so-called law of attraction. Think about that. The law of attraction, a sub-law to it, is the law of repulse. You know what I mean? So there is that push away. It's a process of scattering as a function of uniting. Yeah.
Christ, Jesus used that.
Say again?
Jesus used that a lot. To get back.
Like, for instance, the event of the money changers thing. Okay?
Remember that.
That's a great example. The money changers. I repulsed this, and there was, he probably ruffled a few feathers. It sounds like in the story, but it was repulsion on behalf of a higher understanding, a higher unity, a higher principle. So if you're not repulsing at some point, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. You have to be able to realize that that energy is as important as just the niceness of being loving and isn't it lovely? You have to actually hit hard sometimes. But it's on behalf of more love. So, yeah. So, you guys, you've come a long way. It's been a lot of stuff today. A lot of stuff. Yeah. Anything you want to ask? Or,
I
yeah?
just thought that the mother repulses the behaviour of the child, with not repulsing or rejecting the child.
Oh, that's a good...
They have to do it, yeah.
So that the example is another repulsion. The mother repulses the inappropriate behavior of the child, but it's because there's love there. Yeah. Same idea. Just take it up higher into larger contexts. Yeah. All right. Well, so here it's very interesting. Yesterday the talk was on the reappearance of the Christ, the externalization of the hierarchy. Today it's about the new group of world servers and getting a deeper sense of that and what that really means to us. And I know some of you are going to be in Dublin over the weekend. And that's all about applying all of that to the bigger picture. And that's about where the world is. We are at a great transition. Humanity is at an enormous transition. It's called the awakening. And it's been predicted for a long time that this would be the time. And we are right now in the burning ground phase of that awakening. And so, in a way, even though it wasn't intended, well, maybe it was. Jared set this up, so maybe he was thinking about all three of these things sequentially, but they fit well, because the next step is to really look at the big picture and see what's really happening in the world, and what can we do to support the soul of humanity, as it seeks to transform the personality of humanity, and thus qualify all of us to move through a great portal into what could be a golden age. But we have to walk across some really hot coals, and those hot coals are getting hotter as we go. So, any questions before we adjourn? Anything you'd like to? Yes?
Quick query, just in relation to the 21 items. Are those statements made by the Tibetan, or is this your interpretation of the information?
Those are my words. Okay, he's asking about that list. Those are my words, but they're based upon the ideas conveyed by the Tibetan. Yeah, they're my words. Yes?
Just when I went back and mentioned about the lower personality keeping the enlightenment from coming in due to, I was also thinking of the Black Lodge and what happened. And also, I just ask you, are you aware of the prediction that there will be a rise in the Black Lodge, or similar to it, before the coming of Christ, in an attempt to dominate, or someone is to come before it?
Well, in a way, okay, his question is there any, well, there's talk apparently of how, as we get closer to this initiatory opportunity, which is related to the Brotherhood, the Brotherhood of the White Lodge, that the darker forces are going to put up a fight and rise in influence. And yeah, that's definitely true. That's definitely true, and that's why so much is going on in the world today. There's a huge battle going on, and humanity is the battlefield between two great forces, and as one increases, the other increases, and so that's why there's such crisis in the world today. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk a lot about, get into this whole idea of the different kinds of shadow issues that are arising, and how the Black Lodge tries to exploit those things, and what can we do about it. But yeah, and by the way, that's not just true with humanity, that's true with you and I. I mean, you're ready to make a transition in your own personal life, coming into another higher dimension of yourself, making a transition into a new kind of, don't you find that really you got to go through a kind of burning ground of, that's trying, and your lower self is fighting you, and you're fearful, or you're suspicious, or whatever it is. There's a part of ourselves that really makes it difficult, and the Black Lodge exploits that. It energetically exploits that. Because it has a vested interest in the status quo. That's a principle of the Black Lodge. It has a vested interest in the past. It has a vested interest in separative consciousness. And it will put up a fight. Just like our lower nature puts up a fight. On a larger scale, this lodge puts up a fight. Your personality, my personality, all of our personalities are by definition susceptible to the subtle influences of the Black Lodge. And the soul in you is naturally affiliated with the White Lodge. So this whole battle between the Black Lodge and the White Lodge, really, it's a battle between your higher nature and your lower nature. This is sort of the microcosm battlefield, and humanity is a more macrocosm battlefield. But welcome to the battle. Welcome to the battle. So, on that note, take a deep breath. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I hope to see some of you tomorrow. Okay? Take care. Thank you, thank you, thank you.